Travis Wayne Goodsell. We'll do some church history on this video for Christmas Eve, or almost Christmas Eve. Wikipedia outright lies when it comes to the church. They don't put in a lot of information, and there's some very incorrect information thanks to Mormons. For example, Joseph Smith was arrested in March of 1826 for glass looking. On Wikipedia, it says the result of the proceeding remains unclear, and they have a link to it. You can hover over, and Joseph Smith, the founder of the Latter-day Saint movement, was subjected to approximately 30 criminal actions during his life. Well, we'll just link us to the Wikipedia page for Joseph Smith in jail. Why do they have to do this? Dear God. As primary sources, do you hear what they're saying here? Primary sources report various conflicting outcomes. What are these primary sources? Well, we have a footnote reference 40 for a survey of the primary sources. What? Survey? And Dan Vogel from Mormon Scripture Studies, a Mormon who's throwing a monkey wrench into the whole cog system. It's not unclear, and the primary source is the court itself. They found the charge. It was listed there. It's a misdemeanor charge. He had to pay $1 something. Let's show you. I'll show you the picture. So $2.68 was his charge for the misdemeanor offense. So the result of the proceeding remains unclear. So yes, Wikipedia pisses me off because of the church's interference and the lies and deceptions and the cover-ups. So it's necessary to take a fresh look at what really happened. And so we're going to skip to this time period after he is arrested in 1826 on March 20th. He married, eloping with Emma Hale. And what's interesting is that they eloped at the same jail where he was arrested. I guess he knew them. But if you look on the map of where it's located, which here's Palmyra, the farm below it, and then clear over to the east, southeast, just right above where Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania is, right near the border. That's where the jail was, and the courthouse. But Hales came from Harmony. Joseph Smith was hired by Josiah Stoll to work by Harmony in the caves or whatever. There was a silver cave that had been abandoned, and he was hoping to find more silver, hired Joseph Smith to assist him with that process. And so Joseph Smith was not just using his hat trick, but was also helping with the digging on this occasion, because it doesn't do any good to be standing around watching everybody else dig and not finding anything, because he did it for quite a while with them. And even after he was charged with the misdemeanor offense, he went right back to work for Josiah Stoll over in Harmony. Now, Harmony is north of Pittsburgh. That is southwest of the farm. So even further distance from where the jail was that he was arrested. And so all of this is key and vital in establishing what really happened back then. And the church won't tell you the truth. And the reason why Harmony is so important is because Harmony was where the Methodists were from. Remember, Joseph Smith in his history says he talked to a Methodist preacher after his first vision in 1820, and the Methodist preacher told him it was all a load of crap. Well, Harmony, Pennsylvania was settled by Methodists. So Emma Hale, being Methodist, Harmony, north of Pittsburgh. Very simple, not complex, church is lying. Interestingly, Harmony is in between Ohio, right by Kirtland, Ohio, where Sidney Rigdon lived, and the Smith farm. Sort of like a road that could be between the different places back then, such that horse would be required. They obviously didn't pave the roads. They were dirt roads. And knowing that Sidney Rigdon is the author of the Book of Mormon for the majority of it, let's show you what the picture looks like of what computer research has found, which is not unclear. This is primary source evidence with a computer program. You know, your grade school teachers, they tell you don't plagiarize, and the teacher knows because they give you the book to do a report on. So if you plagiarize the book, the teacher says, you plagiarized. You got to quote the page and the reference and all that. We get taught as kids. So here's the authorship of the Book of Mormon picture. This information came from the YouTube video. I believe the title is on the first one. Yeah. Authorship, Who Really Wrote the Book of Mormon, Part 4 is the title of the YouTube video. And as you can see, Rigdon dominates the book. Cowdery, he's also in here. And when we learn about Cowdery's involvement after the 116 pages are destroyed. Supposedly Emma takes over for a little bit, can't do very well, apparently. There's a reason why. But then Cowdery takes over. And there's a reason why. When you look at the real evidence, not the speculation of distraction by Mormon apologists, the clearer picture comes into focus. And Pratt, Parley P. Pratt, he was a parishioner of Sidney Rigdon. Oh, okay. So Cowdery was a second removed, third, whatever, cousin to the Mack family. Lucy Mack, mother of Joseph Smith Jr. And they were from Vermont as well. and thus Congregationalist. Not Methodist, not Presbyterian, not Baptist. Rigdon was a Baptist, Campbellite Baptist. He was part of the Campbellites. He broke away from the Campbellites because he wanted to revise the whole Bible, not just the New Testament that Alexander Campbell insisted on doing, and since it was his church, he was going to get his way, and Sidney Rigdon said, then I'm going to the highway. And isn't it interesting that when Sidney Rigdon joins the church in December of 1830, Joseph immediately puts him to work on the revision of the Bible. Wonder why. We know exactly why. And so, yes, once we put all the evidence together, we now see the bigger picture. And so, yes, there's a lot of information that needs to be talked about before, like Canandaigua, New York, in 1826, which was after, it was in September of 1826, so after Joseph was jailed. And then afterwards, because when you follow the money trail, you find out how Sidney Rigdon got paid for his writing of the Book of Mormon. I just told you how. He got to do his desire and revise the whole Bible. That's why the Book of Mormon and the Bible revision that is claimed attributed to Joseph Smith are different. There's a reason why. That's why. But Parley P. Pratt, notice it's very scant. If you know anything about Peter Parker, Spider-Man, in the days of Joseph Smith, if you know anything about Parley P. Pratt's conversion, he joins the church because missionaries just happened to run into him and say, hey, Book of Mormon, why don't you read it? Notice at the beginning, there's a lot of Parley P. Pratt's work. And then there's a little bit after the Isaiah chapters. And then we got some near the end. As Parley P. Pratt gets this book and reads it, he's going to see familiar information, as if he had written it himself. But this was an ancient record? Wow! See how this works? And so then he goes back to his church under Sidney Rigdon and says, hey guys, I found this book. Really? Yeah, I wrote it. No, it's an ancient record buried in the ground. It's a history of the indigenous people of America. No, I wrote it. No, they said, no, I wrote it. Here, I'll show you the original manuscript. So no, he can't do that, can he? This is how they were able to get away with it. Smith Sr. can't go to the Batavian Press because people are already looking for William Morgan's manuscripts. And Joseph Smith can't keep them at the farm, can he? Because if you remember Junior, he talks about how he has to keep hiding the plates all around the farmyard because people are trying to find it and search for it. They're criminally trespassing to get it. So yeah, they're not keeping it at the farm. They have to find another place. Well, there you go. They met Sidney Rigdon and had him write it. And he's out in Ohio, far away from the farmhouse and far away from where the incident of William Morgan took place, as everybody's looking for his manuscript, trying to find out where is it, what did it contain, because the Batavian Press came out the very next year and published a book with his name on it, but it was something everybody already knew just by attending Freemason meetings. And so it was no big secret. But yet they still tried to get some money back for the loss of the prepayment to William Morgan. And we know that the Smiths knew of Sidney Rigdon because of the manuscript that he obtained from Solomon Spaulding at the Pittsburgh Press, where he hung out, was bestest buddies, because he bought whatever new book was being printed for his collection and acquire any books that nobody is able to pay for and abandon and leave there at the print press, because the print press are not allowed to just print a book on their own and claim it as their own. So they have to either throw it away or give it away. And so Rigdon was there for that purpose, to acquire as many books as he could. So, Section 3 is the first scripture about the restoration of the church in these latter days. And it's said to have been July 1828. Now, what is missing from the Wikipedia page and from this page is the death of Emma and Joseph's firstborn. Remember, they just got married or eloped in January of 1827. Here we are in July of 1828. They had a baby. That baby died just not too long before July 1828. This is also the time period when Martin Harris destroys the 116 pages, the very first 116 pages of the manuscript. Now, it contained William Morgan's book information. It did not contain Solomon Spaulding's information. And so notice in Section 3 what is going on here. And notice it's not the Lord. It's the Lord of the manor. The works and the designs and the purposes of God cannot be frustrated, neither can they come to naught. For, I'm going to have to take care of a program here in just a second. For God doth not walk in crooked paths, neither doth he turn to the right hand nor to the left, neither doth he vary from that which he hath said. Therefore his paths are straight, and his course is one eternal round. Unless the president of the church changes his mind and changes the course and then changes the path and calls it the covenant path and creates a new god to be worshipped. And did I throw in a snide comment about our current president? Yes, I did. Alright. For although a man may receive many revelations and have power to do many mighty works, yet if he boasts in his own strength, and set at naught the counsels of God, and follows after the dictates of his own will and carnal desires, he must fall, and incur the vengeance of a just God upon him. He had a son die. This was Joseph III. He had to rename him later on with another kid. And just lost the 116 pages. Behold, you have been entrusted with these things. Joseph Smith Sr. was the master mason at the Canandaigua Lodge of the York Rites in Canandaigua, New York. It was him, according to the book written by the Batavian Press with the name William Morgan, of the duties and responsibilities of the Master Mason. That's how he got the farm, was because he became a Master Mason. Read that book. And so it's Smith who snuck William Morgan out of the country for his safety, took upon himself the responsibility to get the book written and published somehow. Because they can't go to the Batavian Press to have the Batavian Press give an advance so that he can write the book and not worry about the farm. Because people are looking for the manuscript. People are wanting to find out who burned down the temples, who caused the burning down of the temples. Because it was a massive burning. Martin Harris was put on the committee in Palmyra for the anti-Mason movement. The anti-Mason movement was because of the William Morgan incident. Joseph Smith can't go around saying, "Oh, Your Honor, no, it was me. They were trying to murder him, so I snuck him out of the country. He's alive and well." No, they can't do that. He's in threat for his life if he is discovered and found out. People are looking for what really happened to murder the person who burned down their temples. It's the Scottish Rites Lodge particularly. Go to Heber C. Kimball under Masonry on Wikipedia, and you see how evil he is. But we're not talking about that part. But yeah, he's one of those who are looking to find out who caused this, and he found him. Brought Brigham Young in after Brigham's wife dies, and had already been married to a second woman, or at least was having babies with this second woman before joining the church. Real evil man, Heber C. Kimball. And so, wah, if you're related to him because you're complicit in his evil, because you most likely have found out about it, and you're helping to perpetuate the lies about him. That's what really pisses me off, is that there are Mormons in this valley who know the truth and are purposely continuing the lies and the cover-ups and the deceptions. Shame on you. And so that's why Martin Harris was uncomfortable with the 116 pages, because it contained too much Freemasonry. There still is Freemasonry in the Book of Mormon, because the Smiths were a part of the York Rites, with the Knights Templar, the Holy Grail, the Royal Blood. They were preparing America for the coming of the Messiah, a mortal man, thus Royal Blood. And that's where the buried plates come from, in Egyptian. That's all part of the Knights Templar. The guys with the Friday the 13th fame. Infamy, I guess, because the Catholic Church tried to assassinate him. But the Scottish Rites had different alternatives. Instead of creating the kingdom of God, they wanted to create the axis of evil and destroy. And so thus, that's why they're doing what they're doing today. But this is not the video. Behold, you should not have feared man more than God. Although men may set at naught the counsels of God and despise his words, yet you should have been faithful. and he would have extended his arm and supported you against all the fiery darts of the adversary. Part of what happened after their firstborn dies. Women take it hard. They have an emotional connection with the baby in the womb, and then the nursing baby then dies. Yeah, women take it harder because of that emotional and physical connection to the baby. They went to her Methodist church for consolement. They, however, knew about March 20th. So there's not a conflicting report from primary sources. They knew what happened. They knew about his arrest and the misdemeanor payment of $2.68. And they didn't want his kind in their religion. And so they were denied not just becoming members for Joseph, but he was denied attending. And the Methodists, because the whole town of Harmony is Methodist, Emma was also banned from the Methodists, and Emma's parents banned from the Methodists. They had to find somewhere else to live. Now, when you understand that the book that Joseph Smith Sr. entrusted to Joseph Jr. is of national security interest, it's about a national conspiracy plot to destroy America. As I've gone over it with you, the 1 Nephi chapter 1, 2017. Helaman chapter 7, 2020. Yeah, this year. And 3 Nephi 11, 2024. The enemy was going to use the biblical prophecies against us in these latter days for the sole purpose of destroying Christianity, destroying belief in a God. But the Smiths knew through the Knights Templar that it's not some guy from space flying on a Pegasus horse, that he's supposed to be a man learning of the Jews. That's why the Book of Mormon is encoded. Jesus didn't come from outer space to the indigenous people of America in 3 Nephi 11. That's the sign that John talks about in Revelation 19. A white horse in the heavens. The sign. That's the constellation Pegasus. 2024 is when the total solar eclipse occurs. That's the death. Because Jupiter, which is born, is immaculate conception, because stars don't actually give birth. That's why it's immaculate. But again, the book is of vital national security interest to all Americans. And here Joseph goes through some trouble and says, "Why didn't you just come to me?" Joseph instead went to the Methodists. The Methodists then kicked him out. Well, that sort of ruins the whole plan that they had going. You have Sidney Rigdon out in Ohio writing the new revised book from William Morgan's manuscripts. He then has them sent to Joseph Smith in Harmony, Pennsylvania. we can see that it's Oliver Cowdery who's involved with this. Then Joseph was supposed to distract Martin Harris, because remember, Martin Harris lives in Palmyra, but Joseph Smith drags him all the way out to Harmony, taking him away from the home and the farmland, because people are looking for the manuscript. And so you have Martin Harris, who already knows that Joseph does a hat trick thing, because Joseph used to work on Martin Harris's farm. You don't see any of that in Wikipedia. And so he knew Martin Harris. He knew he had money. They needed a publisher for the book, somebody who would pay the money. Martin Harris was that guy, because they knew him. They knew he had money. And so they had to involve him somehow, and it was kind of tricky because Martin Harris wanted to be involved. He didn't want to just pay the money when the book is finished. He wanted to be actively involved with the writing of it, the translating. And if you remember, he's the one who insisted on receiving some of the inscriptions on the plates. And then he went off to New York to find somebody who's learned to verify if it was a legitimate work. So he's already suspicious, and he gets fooled. Thank God. Because if he found out what was going on, he would have gone back to Palmyra, informed the committee, hey, the Smiths are part of this William Morgan disappearance. Cover's blown. The whole work is frustrated. Marvelous work and a wonder no longer happens. And so, yes, Joseph Sr. is pissed. Because now Joseph, his new wife, and her family have to leave Harmony. And that's when they go over to Susquehanna. By the river there, it was all forest. So they had to create a clearing by chopping down trees and then build the home from the trees they chopped down. Isolated, away from everybody, because they've been shunned from Harmony. And all of that is missing in the church's history books about Joseph Smith. And so now Oliver Cowdery is involved in helping with the book. It's because Oliver Cowdery was the one who was helping Sidney Rigdon, getting it transferred onto parchment, and then getting the parchment, which was supposed to go to Joseph Smith, but all bypassed. And so, yeah, they had to take the long journey now back to the farm, because that's where his coopersmith shop, where he makes barrels, and with the threat to America, justifies his making barrels for the Yorkites masonry and the militias of that township who were of the Mason Lodge to receive gunpowder. And you can't put steel with the barrels. It has to be copper. And thus why it was copper, not gold or golden, as the metal tells us. And so, yeah, it justified getting copper to the coopersmith shop. So let me show you the farm as I answer the door. So you see the copper shop is just right below the apple orchard, across the street from the frame home, which was built later on. As Smith was preoccupied so much with the making of the book that he neglected the farm, and the owner of the land had to sell out, and a new guy had to take it over, and allowed the Smiths to build the frame home and stay in the frame home, as they were previously in the log home up there on the north of the field, because the original owner let them have the field and then have the log home to stay in with their family. And working the field was supposed to generate income to pay for the field, for the rent, and money for them to live. But the whole incident with the Masons and William Morgan sort of put a kibosh on all of that. And so, yeah, right there on the main road to Palmyra and then down to Manchester and Canandaigua, New York. And so as people frequented this road to access the cooper shop for the barrels, this is why people were able to say, hey, isn't this where William Morgan's manuscript is? No, it's around here somewhere. Yeah, so the whole Sacred Grove thing, supposedly there in the woodlot area, never happened. Joseph Smith created it in 1838. That's the version we have in our canon. And the reason why is because apparently Jesus came to him and said, hey, all of Christianity is wrong, don't join any of their churches. So what happens? Joseph Smith, son, dies, joins the Methodists. They say, no, get the hell out. Oh yeah, Jesus told me I wasn't supposed to, this is why. Doesn't say anything about that. And so, yeah, that's all coded messaging. The whole thing is coded. They cannot reveal their identity. If they reveal their identity, if they're uncovered, the work can be stopped. And that was the evil Scottish Rites Illuminati's plan, was to stop any warnings from going out. That's why they kept arresting William Morgan, and thus why they kept arresting Joseph Smith. They wanted him shut down. And so that's, the Wikipedia does not cover any of that. They have no clue. And because the church won't let anybody know the truth about what happened. And the church technically doesn't know, but they know that something's up. That the church, or that the Smiths were a part of ruining their plans to destroy America during these years. And so yeah, that's why Elder Holland had himself hospitalized that 1 week, if you remember, not too long ago. That's when I exposed to the courts that they are followers of the Illuminati, with the inverted pentagram on Temple Square. And then all of a sudden he gets a heart attack. But not as funny as Nelson when I informed the court of his change to the law of chastity, if you remember, that allowed for polygamy. And he came out with a scathing article. People who speculate and he was pissed. That was awesome. But Yeah, the courts control the church, or courts control things and protect the church, so I'm screwed. Which means we're all screwed. So again, Russia, you can help me here. You destroyed America. Take down the church. You hacked them. You know that they have trillions of dollars now. Go to it. Expose them. Just like you did America. I give you permission. As if you need my permission. So what are you waiting for? I noticed you guys are running away now. So a little, if you haven't seen the other videos, that's all. So let's go back to what the story is that we're talking about here, as I've had some problems with my computer doing this video. Wonder why. And so the Cooper shop is where Smith made the copper plates. And the copper plates are necessary for the print press. You have somebody who speaks the words of the book to somebody who can write it down. So Sidney Rigdon reads William Morgan's manuscript, and Oliver Cowdery writes down what Sidney Rigdon tells him to write down, because they've got to change it somewhat from what William Morgan was saying. And they had a general idea of how they were going to word this. And Section 3 goes over that. I had to bring back up everything that I had to let's see. Verse 12, well, let's see, 10. Okay, but remember, God is merciful, therefore repent of that which thou hast done. Yeah, don't have your child die. It's a giving of 116 pages to Martin Harris, who took it back to the committee and said, I think this is, no. To the commandment which I gave you, and thou art still chosen. See, as you read through the new 116 pages, it has that little section about Joseph in the future, who's the son of Joseph the Senior. And they have a marvelous work and a wonder to do. Wow, these ancient Indians are wise, prophetic. Joseph Senior is purposely passing it off to his son. Because again, they have to keep a low profile as possible. They cannot draw attention to Smith Sr., who is the Master Mason in Canandaigua, until 1826. And so if he's the one that comes out and says, oh yeah, I found this book. Weren't you the Master Mason in Canandaigua? Weren't you involved with that William Morgan guy? Didn't you kill him? No, I didn't kill him. Oh, what happened then? Where's that manuscript? So again, son takes over. And they use the Knights Templar lore for the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. Treasure plates in Egyptian, buried in the ground. Joseph Smith even goes so far as to say he saw a cave with more treasure plates. That's southern Illinois, and the caves there. That's why it's called Little Egypt. The Knights Templar went there and buried their treasure plates, and nobody can find them. Just like nobody could access the well in Canada that is known to have been built by the Knights Templar, that at a certain level there was a message saying below this point there's treasure. So they tried to go to find the treasure. It flooded. It was trapped. It was a booby trap. And so another importance of southern Illinois, if you hadn't caught on to my other videos, it's the crossroads of the two solar eclipses. The one in 2017, which 1 Nephi 1 is all about, and then the one in 2024, which is 3 Nephi 11. The signs in both of those are the crossroads in Illinois. The book is a treasure map. But like I said, I already know how to translate Egyptian. I'm the decipherer of Egyptian petroglyphs. We don't need to find them, or if somebody does find them and destroys them, melts them down like the Spaniards did to the Aztec records. I know it all. I know how the Bible was written by referring to the Egyptian records. So yeah, no worries. As long as nobody murders me, as they're trying desperately, aren't they? But yeah, by now I'm thinking I'm just going to be like Ether and Moroni with all the Mormons that are so wicked. But that's why this Book of Mormon is so vital for us right now. That's why I'm getting so desperate in a way, trying to push it as hard as I can, which is only repelling Mormons harder and harder away. Oh, it's too hard. This is too complicated for us, Travis. We don't understand. You're going against the church. Yes, because they're evil. They're trying to kill you. So yes, and except thou do this, thou shalt be delivered up, and become as other men, and have no more gift. So the gift is being put in charge of this book, the Book of Mormon. As Daddy gave him the responsibility to take the money man and distract him. And so he gets to pretend to be a translator with his rocks and a hat trick. And receive the written part by Oliver, from Sidney Rigdon to transferred by Oliver Cowdery, and then dropped off. And so then Smith has Martin Harris rewrite it all. See, Martin Harris, he tells that there was curtains hung up so he couldn't see the plates, but he knew about Joseph and the hat trick. So Joseph said, oh yeah, I look in the hat and it tells me. No, Joseph received the parchment. And then once Martin Harris wrote it out as Joseph dictated, it was then sent to Coopersmith's shop. But they never got that far. Got to 116 pages. Martin Harris says, I'm not comfortable with this. Too much Freemasonry in here. They're evil, aren't they? Didn't they kill William Morgan? And so, yeah, whole thing blew up. And so, thou deliverest up that which is sacred into the hands of a wicked man. And his power to translate is gone. And then it says, and this is the reason thou hast lost thy privileges for a season. See, privileges, not translation gift, privileges. Like a father talking to his son and scolding him and punishing him. You have lost your privileges for a month. But Dad, they're all going to laugh at me. Thou hast suffered the counsel of thy director to be trampled upon from the beginning. Again, they have to, if they're writing this is the first document that we get about anything that's going on, and it's all encoded. And so here they said, my work shall go forth. We are writing this book. We need to warn America, for inasmuch as the knowledge of a Savior has come unto the world. This is the last day's Messiah according to the learning of the Jews. Knights Templar, Holy Grail, bloodline, the royal bloodline, to become the Messiah in 2017 to 2024. through the testimony of the Jews. See? Learning of the Jews. Even so shall the knowledge of a Savior come unto my people. We need to get the word out that the Christ will be coming during this time frame. And we need to save America, and this Christ is going to lead this rebellion against America's coup d'etat. Oops. Sort of failed on that one, didn't we? And so here's where we know that he now is in knowledge of Sidney Rigdon having this other book that he had obtained. Because they can't use one that's already been published because other people have possession of the other book. And they can compare the Book of Mormon with these other books. And so it's interesting that they did take from a number of different books during this time period. There's one particular author that Sidney Rigdon really liked. She was female, a female author back in the early 1800s. And he liked her works because a lot of her stuff was included in the Book of Mormon. The Quran came out with a new edition not too soon before this. And they included some of the Quran, of that Quran, in the Book of Mormon. It's not just the King James Version of 1769 that was plagiarized. And if you notice, they're missing the Sermon on the Mount. There's Isaiah, Malachi, and Sermon on the Mount after 3rd Nephi. And so lots of different books. You've probably heard of a few. Napoleon's book, which is a history of war, which is for grade school kids, and even Charles Anthon, which is interesting because they didn't know Charles Anthon until Martin Harris went up and said he saw Charles Anthon, and Charles Anthon said, "No, I'm not going to certify this piece of paper." And so they then found, hey, he's got a new book that came out, a dictionary that was written by somebody else, and he was a part of this newest edition. And I'm having trouble finding my original edition. I got it somewhere somehow, and I'm trying to find it. But I can only find online now the later editions. I think the 1842 or 38 or something edition is the closest I can find to the original. I think it was 1826 even, when he first came out with that republication. Yeah, names. Oh, gold mine. We now have names for places and people for the Book of Mormon. And so, yeah, that became a gold mine for them because Martin Harris went and talked to him. And so, Nephites, Jacobites, Josephites, Zoramites, testimony of the fathers. And the testimony shall come of the Lamanites, and the Lemuelites, and the Ishmaelites, and the Nephites. See, this is from the names in Solomon Spaulding's work. We don't have the original. Why? Because they can't allow it to be made available to people. Because people would be able to compare. You can't have that. And so, yes, the Mormon Church apologists love to point out, oh, well, we don't have the original, and his other book was in the Roman period. Yes, because it's another book. And so, yeah, the church tries to distract and confuse and belay the point. But this is why. They had to keep a low profile. They chose Solomon Spaulding's book because he didn't publish it. He died. He couldn't pay for it, didn't pay for it. And Sidney just obtained it by being there at the printer's press after he had died. And as a result, Sidney was the one who recommended it. Hey, I've got this other book. Nope, it's never been published. we can use this as a template for the new revision of the Book of Mormon. And so Joseph Smith then gets involved with let's see. Sidney Rigdon does have some stuff after Second Nephi, or in Second Nephi, and into the Enos parts or Jacob parts. And then you have Cowdery, who's mostly Alma 32, which is the doctrine of Mormonism that I've been going over with you. But you guys, Mormons, keep emphasizing, oh no, when the Spirit tells us something, that's knowledge. We don't have to do any work. And then Parley P. Pratt has some there at the beginning. But the Tree of Life, all Joseph Sr. Joseph Sr. now had to rewrite a good portion of the narrative for the 116 pages revision. And that came from his dreams, whether they were actual dreams or whether they were from his being a York Rites Mason mixed with Jewish mysticism that he got in Vermont with his Congregationalist New Israelites that he was a part of. There was Justice Winchell, who came in a little later, who taught Joseph how to forge, and thus do the plates in copper. That's where he got that knowledge from. And but the Holiness to the Lord parchment, that's from his time with the New Israelites. And that's where he learned about star charts. That's what it is. It's a star chart. And he knew about astronomy, which dealt with 2017, 2024. And so when Joseph got the plates from the angel finally in 1827, there was a sign in the heavens. It was so close. Just two planets were in the wrong position. They're on the shoulder area there, neck and shoulder area. But if they had been back in Leo, which Revelation chapter 12 says they're supposed to be, then yes, it would have been. But they clearly did know, as the revision under Sidney Rigdon for Revelation 12 indicates that they did know that sign, and that you're supposed to put verse 5 with the sign of the Virgin. It's not just the conception, she actually gives birth during that sign, with the moon under her feet, clothed with the sun, the 3 extra stars in Leo, and then Saturn, which is God, is sitting on his throne, which is Ophiuchus. So they knew all this. And that's why they put it in the Book of Mormon, those 2 dates. 2017, 23rd of September 2017, and April 8th, 2024. So it's interesting that Joseph did not make the church organized until the 6th. He didn't wait for the 8th, which is interesting, because that's now fooled all Mormonism. Oh, he was born on April 8th, 1 AD, because that's what the Doctrine and Covenants says. Screw the Book of Mormon, or science has to be screwed because the Book of Mormon has to conform to the Doctrine and Covenants. You're just going way down forbidden paths. It's 4 AD, and that's when the total solar eclipse occurred in Russia. In a major city yet to be determined in Russia. And so, yeah, that's very significant as to why it's tied 2020 years later with April 8th, 2024. So that's why they put it in there. It's because they knew there was no Jesus born in the Roman period who failed miserably but gets a second chance in the future with the same exact sign, which is no longer a sign in Roman period. It was an actual birth in the Roman period, but in the future it's the sign in the heavens. So, yeah. That's the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. Obviously there's a lot more to add to this. Before the events, during the events, after the events. But when they finally finished the Book of Mormon, they presented it again to Martin Harris. Martin Harris said, "Oh, okay, this is fine now. I'll pay for it." And sold his farm, and now is it Dallin H. Oaks who came from Martin Harris? I think it's Huntsman and Romney who come from Parley P. Pratt. So, yeah, once you understand that Oaks came from Martin Harris, okay, I get it now. I understand. So now you know the coming forth of the Book of Mormon.